The old Zephyrian diplomat leaned forward in his chair. His blue skin had grown pale with age, and his 4 eyes moved slowly across the room. The young representatives from the Corvani species sat waiting. They wanted to join the galactic community. They did not know the price of peace. "You must understand," Kriksdal said in his soft voice, "why every species fears to break the peace. Let me tell you about the humans. Let me tell you about the day they stopped being nice." The Corvani shifted in their seats. They had heard rumors about humans. Some called them peacekeepers. Others whispered they were monsters. None of them knew the truth. 50 years ago, humans first came to our galaxy. Their ships were slow and loud. Their weapons were simple. Their diplomats smiled too much and apologized for everything. We thought they were weak. Jake Morrison had been Earth's first real diplomat to the Galactic Council. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a patient smile. Every day, he would walk the halls of Nexus Prime Station, greeting aliens who barely looked at him. When other species pushed humans out of trade deals, Jake would just nod and say, "Perhaps we can find another way." The other diplomats laughed at him behind his back. The Veltar called humans soft meat. The Crystalline Consortium said humans were barely evolved apes. Even the peaceful Aquarians thought humans were too gentle to survive in space. Jake never got angry. He just kept smiling and kept trying to make friends. Lisa Rodriguez ran Earth's trade operations. She was a small woman with dark hair who worked 18 hours every day. When alien companies broke their contracts with humans, Lisa would sit in long meetings trying to find compromises. When pirates attacked human cargo ships, she would file reports and ask for help that never came. "Please," she would say to the Trade Council, "our people need these supply lines. We can pay higher fees if needed." The aliens would take her money and give her the worst shipping routes in the galaxy. Lisa never complained. She just worked harder. Commander Ryan Bell was in charge of keeping humans safe in space. He had only 12 ships and 300 soldiers to protect 60 human colonies. Every week, he sent reports to Earth asking for more ships, more weapons, more help. Every week, Earth told him to avoid conflicts and seek peaceful solutions. When the Veltar attacked the mining station at Kepler 186, Ryan could only watch. His ships were too far away. His weapons were too weak. 37 human miners died that day. The Galactic Council called it an unfortunate accident. Ryan filed his report and asked for justice. The Council said they would look into it. They never did. For 50 years, this pattern continued. Humans would build colonies on dead worlds nobody else wanted. Pirates would attack their ships. Aliens would cheat them in trade deals. Criminal gangs would kidnap human workers. Each time, humans would ask for help through proper channels. Each time, they would be ignored or told to handle it themselves. The galaxy saw humans as useful slaves. They worked hard, complained little, and could survive on worlds that would kill other species. Human colonies produced food, metals, and manufactured goods that kept the galactic economy running. But humans had no real power, no respect, and no protection. The Veltar hegemony was the worst. They controlled 200 worlds and had the strongest military in the galaxy. Their soldiers were 8 feet tall, with armor-plated skin and natural weapons. They believed that might made right. They saw humans as insects to be stepped on. Admiral Vic Var of the Veltar looked at humans and saw weakness. "They do not fight back," he told his officers. "They file papers instead of firing weapons. They are not warriors, they are prey." The Veltar began taking human worlds by force. They would land armies on human colonies and declare them military training zones. Any humans who objected were killed. The survivors were forced to work as slaves. Each time this happened, Jake Morrison would stand before the Galactic Council. His voice would shake with emotion as he described the suffering of his people. "Please," he would say, "we just want to live in peace. We just want to be safe." The council would listen politely. They would pass resolutions condemning violence. They would form committees to study the situation. They would do everything except help. Other species watched and learned. If the Veltar could abuse humans without punishment, anyone could. Pirates began targeting human ships exclusively. Criminals knew human colonies had no real defenses. Even peaceful species started cheating humans in business deals. Humans became the galaxy's favorite victims. Through it all, humans kept trying to do the right thing. They never broke treaties, even when others did. They never attacked first, even when attacked. They shared their technology freely, even with species that hated them. They believed that kindness and patience would eventually win over their enemies. They were wrong. The breaking point came at New Denver Colony. It was a farming world with 50,000 humans. They grew food that fed millions across the galaxy. The colonists were mostly families, farmers, teachers, doctors, children. They had no military, no weapons, no way to fight back. Admiral Lekvar decided to use New Denver for target practice. He told the Galactic Council that his fleet needed realistic combat training. The Council approved his request without asking what realistic meant. The Veltar fleet arrived without warning. They bombarded New Denver from orbit for 6 hours. When the smoke cleared, every human settlement was gone. 50,000 people were dead. The fertile farmland was burned to ash. THEK single quotes VAR sent a message to the galaxy. Training exercise complete. Results satisfactory. Jake Morrison received the news while standing in the council chambers. He had been arguing for better protection for human colonies. The message came through on his personal communicator. He read it once, then read it again. His face went white. "Excuse me," he said to the assembled diplomats. His voice was very quiet. "I need to make a call to Earth." The other diplomats barely noticed him leave. They were discussing trade tariffs and shipping routes. The death of 50,000 humans was just another day in galactic politics. But something had changed. Jake Morrison's smile was gone. For the first time in 50 years, a human diplomat was not trying to make peace. He was planning for war. Krikstal paused in his story. The young Corvani representatives sat in stunned silence. They had thought galactic civilization was about cooperation and mutual respect. They were learning it was built on the suffering of the weak. That was the last day humans tried to solve problems with words, Krikstal said softly. What came next changed everything. What came next is why no species dares to break the peace. The old diplomat's 4 eyes grew distant as he remembered. The humans had a saying from their homeworld: speak softly and carry a big stick. For 50 years, they spoke softly. We never thought to ask about the stick. The galaxy expected humans to do what they always did after an attack: file complaints, ask for help, accept whatever scraps of justice the council offered. Instead, something strange began to happen. Human colonies started going quiet. It began 2 weeks after New Denver. The mining colony on Rigel 7 sent out evacuation notice. All civilians departing for core worlds, the message said. Mining operations suspended indefinitely. The message was polite and gave no explanation. Lisa Rodriguez, who usually fought to keep every trade route open, started canceling contracts. Shipping companies that had cheated humans for decades suddenly found their cargo holds empty. We appreciate your past business, her messages said, but we are restructuring our operations. Jake Morrison stopped coming to council meetings. His replacement was a quiet woman named Helen Davis, who spoke in short sentences and never smiled. When diplomats asked about human colonies going dark, she would simply say, "Internal security measures." The Crystalline Consortium was the first to notice something was wrong. Their industrial worlds depended on human-grown food. When shipments stopped coming, they sent angry messages demanding explanations. Helen Davis replied with a single line: "Contract terminated due to breach of protection clauses." "What protection clauses?" the consortium asked. They had never protected human ships from pirates. Helen Davis did not answer. Meanwhile, strange reports began filtering in from across the galaxy. Human merchant ships were disappearing from trade routes, but not because of pirates. They were simply returning to human space and not coming back out. Human diplomatic staff were being recalled from alien worlds. Human students at Galactic. Universities were going home. It looked like humanity was giving up. Many species were pleased. Finally, the annoying humans were accepting their place as a minor species. Without human competition, there would be more resources for everyone else. The Veltar were especially happy. Admiral Vekvar had shown that humans could be killed without consequence. Now they were retreating to their home systems like scared animals. "See how they run," he told his officers. "This proves they are cowards." But some observers noticed odd details. Human ships leaving alien space were not the same ships that had arrived. These vessels were larger, with strange modifications. Human diplomatic bags were much heavier than usual, as if they contained more than just papers. Most disturbing of all, every human who left seemed to know exactly when to go. Dr. Marcus Webb was a xenobiologist who had studied dozens of species. He had spent 30 years watching humans, and something about their behavior worried him. "This is not retreat," he told his colleagues on Earth. "This is preparation." His fellow scientists laughed at him. "Preparation for what?" they asked. "Humans are pacifists. They do not even have a real military." Marcus Webb knew they were wrong, but he could not explain why. All he knew was that humans were acting like predators getting ready to hunt. Truth was hidden deep within Earth's government. While diplomats had been trying to make peace for 50 years, other humans had been preparing for war. General Patricia Stone commanded military forces that most humans did not even know existed. Her soldiers trained on worlds so secret that their locations were classified above top secret. "We always knew this day would come," she told her staff. After New Denver, 50 years of data collection is complete. Begin Phase 2. Captain Amy Foster was one of the few humans who knew what Phase 2 meant. She commanded a ship called the Relentless, which looked like an ordinary cargo vessel from the outside. Inside, it carried weapons that could crack planets. "How long do we have?" she asked General Stone. "The politicians want to try diplomacy one more time," Stone replied. "But after what happened at New Denver, even they know it's pointless. We have maybe 6 months before someone pushes us too far." As it turned out, they had much less time than that. The Veltar had tasted blood at New Denver. Admiral Vekvar wanted more. He looked at star maps and chose his next target, the Kepler 442 system. It had 3 human colonies with a combined population of 2 million people. More importantly, it was strategically located along major shipping routes. "We will claim these worlds for the hegemony," Vekvar announced. "The humans are already evacuating their outer colonies. They will not fight for these either." Intelligence reports seemed to confirm this. Human colonies in Kepler 442 were showing the same signs as other worlds. Civilian populations were being moved out. Commercial traffic had stopped. Only a skeleton crew remained on each world. Vekvar assembled a massive fleet. 847 warships, including his flagship dreadnought destroyer of worlds. It was the largest military force the Veltar had ever deployed against a single system. He wanted to send a message to the entire galaxy about Veltar. The fleet jumped into Kepler 442, expecting to find empty worlds and perhaps a few frightened humans to enslave. Instead, they found something that should have been impossible. The system was completely empty, except for a single human ship. It was not a warship. It was not even armed, as far as Veltar sensors could tell. It was just sitting there in open space, broadcasting on all frequencies. You have 10 minutes to withdraw. This is your only warning. Admiral Vekvar laughed so hard his armor rattled. One ship against 847. One human against 500,000 Veltar. Warriors. It was the most ridiculous thing he had ever seen. Destroy that insect, he ordered. The Veltar fleet opened fire with enough weapons to level a continent. Energy beams and missiles converged on the tiny human ship. Any normal vessel would have been vaporized instantly. The human ship absorbed every shot without even raising its shields. For a moment, there was silence on the Veltar command channel. Then the human ship began to change. Its hull started glowing with an inner light. Strange energy readings appeared on Veltar sensors. The space around the ship began to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. What is that thing doing? Vekvar demanded. His science officer was staring at his instruments in disbelief. Sir, the ship is generating massive gravitational distortions. The energy readings are ... impossible. The human ship's broadcast changed. A woman's voice, calm and professional. Warning acknowledged and ignored. Initiating Kepler demonstration. May your gods have mercy on your souls, because we will not. Captain Amy Foster sat in the command chair of the Relentless, watching 800 Veltar ships on her main screen. Her crew was perfectly calm. They had trained for this moment. For 20 years. All stations report ready, her weapons officer said. Good, Amy replied. Let's show them what happens when you kill human children. She pressed a single button. The Relentless did not explode. It detonated. The difference was everything. The ship's entire mass converted to pure energy in a fraction of a second. But instead of expanding outward like a normal explosion, the energy collapsed inward, creating something that should not exist in normal space. A temporary black hole bloomed where the Cheetah Relentless had been. The gravitational pull was irresistible. Veltar ships that had been spread across thousands of kilometers of space were suddenly pulled toward a point of infinite density. Their engines screamed at maximum power, but physics is not negotiable. Admiral Vekvar had exactly enough time to send one message. The humans are not what we thought they. Then his ship, and every other vessel in the Veltar fleet, was torn apart at the molecular level and compressed into a space smaller than an atom. The artificial black hole lasted exactly 37 seconds before dissipating. When space returned to normal, there was nothing left of the mighty Veltar fleet except a few scattered atoms and a lot of empty space. But the demonstration was not over. As the last traces of the Veltar disappeared, every communication device in the galaxy received a message. It came from Earth, transmitted simultaneously to billions of receivers. The voice was human, female, and absolutely cold. This is Secretary Helen Davis, speaking for the human species. For 50 years, we tried to live in peace. You taught us that peace was weakness. You murdered our children to prove your strength. You made a mistake. The fleet you just saw destroyed contained 847 warships and 500,000 trained soldiers. They died in 37 seconds. This was not our strongest weapon. This was a demonstration. Humanity tried peace. Peace did not work. We will not make that mistake again. Do not make us come to you. The message ended, leaving the galaxy. In stunned silence. On Nexus Prime Station, Krikstal had been watching the destruction through long-range sensors. His 4 eyes were wide with shock. Around him, diplomats from dozens of species sat frozen in their seats. "Impossible," whispered the Aquarian representative. "Humans are pacifists. They do not have weapons like that." Krikstal's voice was very quiet when he replied. "We never asked what they were pacifists about." The galaxy had never seen panic like this before. Within hours of the Kepler demonstration, every major government was calling emergency meetings. Stock markets crashed across 1,000 worlds. Military fleets that had seemed invincible suddenly felt very small and very vulnerable. The Galactic Council demanded an immediate session. Representatives arrived at Nexus Prime with fear in their eyes and weapons in their hands. For the first time in galactic history, security scanners were installed at the council chamber doors. Everyone was afraid that humans might attend. They were right to be afraid. Secretary Helen Davis walked into the council chamber wearing a simple black dress and a cold smile. She was not the same nervous woman who had replaced Jake Morrison. This Helen Davis moved like a predator. Her eyes were the color of winter ice. The chamber fell silent as she took her seat. 500 representatives from dozens of species watched her with the same fascination that prey animals watch approaching predators. "You called this meeting," Helen said. Her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. "What do you want to discuss?" The Aquarian Chancellor spoke first. His water-breathing species had always been peaceful. The destruction of the Veltar fleet was an act of unprecedented violence. The Council demands an explanation. Helen's smile grew wider. "You demand? How interesting. For 50 years, we made requests. We asked for protection, for justice, for basic respect. You gave us nothing. Now you make demands of us?" "The Veltar fleet was destroyed without warning," the Crystalline Consortium representative said. Her crystal body rang like a bell when she spoke. "This violates every treaty about the conduct of war." "War?" Helen laughed, and the sound made. Several diplomats flinch. There was no war. Admiral Vikvar brought 800 ships to murder 2 million human civilians. We prevented this. 1 ship against 800 is not war. It is pest control. Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber. Species that had fought wars for thousands of years had never heard language like this from humans. The Felkorian hive mind spoke through their representative. "Your weapon violates the fundamental laws of physics. Such technology is illegal under galactic law." Helen stood up slowly. Every eye in the chamber followed her. "Let me tell you about laws," she said. "It was legal for pirates to attack our ships. It was legal for the Veltar to murder our children. It was legal for all of you to ignore our suffering. Your laws protected everyone except us." She walked to the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. "You want to know about our weapon? Let me tell you about our weapons. For 50 years, while your diplomats were lying to our faces, our scientists were studying you. All of you." A holographic display appeared above Helen's head. It showed detailed anatomical diagrams of a dozen different alien species. "The Crystalline Consortium," Helen said, pointing to the crystal beings. "Your bodies are silicon-based. Beautiful, strong, nearly indestructible. But silicon has a resonance frequency. Hit it with the right sound waves, and the strongest crystal turns to powder." The consortium representatives went very still. Their bodies were indeed made of living crystal. And Helen was right. They could be shattered by sound. "The Felkorian hive mind," Helen continued. "You share thoughts across your entire species. Very efficient. But shared minds means shared weaknesses. Disrupt the psychic frequency, and every Felkorian in the galaxy feels the pain at once." The Felkorian representative's compound eyes began to twitch. They had never told anyone about the dangers of psychic feedback. "The Veltar," Helen's voice grew colder. Armored skin, natural weapons built for war. But your armor is organic. And we humans know a lot about breaking down organic compounds. Your stomach acid, for example, becomes quite destructive when we modify it slightly. Every species in the chamber was represented in Helen's presentation. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every way they could be killed. 50 years of careful study had taught humans exactly how to destroy anyone who threatened them. This is impossible, the Aquarian Chancellor whispered. How did you learn all this? Helen smiled. You invited us to your worlds. You let us study in your universities. You sold us your medical texts. You bragged about your biological superiority. We listened. We learned. We remembered everything. Dr. Alex Turner had been humanity's greatest xenobiologist. While other humans tried to make peace, he had been dissecting alien corpses and studying alien physiology. Every species that had hurt humans had unknowingly given him the tools to destroy them. The Aquarians can only breathe water, Helen continued. Change the chemical composition slightly, and your oceans become poison. The Zephyrians need specific atmospheric pressure to survive. The Corvani require exact temperature ranges. The ethereals feed on specific energy frequencies. She had a weapon for every species in the galaxy. But technology is not our greatest weapon, Helen said. The holographic display changed to show human history. Our greatest weapon is patience. You thought we were weak because we did not fight back immediately. You misunderstood us completely. The display showed images of Earth, a blue and green world that looked peaceful from space. This is our homeworld, Helen said. You called it a garden world. You were wrong. Earth is a death world where everything tries to kill everything else. We did not evolve to be peaceful. We evolved to survive. When nothing else could, the images changed to show Earth's history. Ice ages that lasted for thousands of years. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. Mass extinctions that wiped out entire ecosystems. Through it all, humans had survived. We are persistence predators. Helen explained. We do not hunt by being fast or strong. We hunt by never giving up. We chase our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We have been doing this for millions of years. The alien diplomats were beginning to understand. Humans had not been weak. They had been gathering information, studying their enemies, waiting for the right moment to strike. For 50 years, we chased you, Helen said. You thought you were the hunters. You were wrong. You were always the prey. We were just being patient. Admiral Ben Carter had been preparing for this day since humans first left Earth. While diplomats made speeches, he had been building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Ships so advanced they made Veltar dreadnoughts look like toys. Weapons so powerful they could crack moons. Soldiers trained to fight on any world, in any environment, against any enemy. You have seen one demonstration, Helen said. Would you like to see more? The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives demanded protection, threatened retaliation, begged for mercy. Helen waited for them to grow quiet. We do not want to rule you, she said finally. We never wanted power. All we ever wanted was to be left alone. You would not let us live in peace, so we will create peace ourselves. The meaning was clear. Humans would remove anyone who threatened galactic stability. The age of strong species bullying weak ones is over, Helen announced. The age of pirates raiding innocent ships is over. The age of ignoring genocide for political convenience is over. There is a new law in this galaxy now. What law? The Aquarian Chancellor asked. Helen's smile was sharp as a blade. Our law. The law of the Hellworlders. Break the peace, and we will break you. She walked toward the chamber exit, then paused. Oh, and council? She said, without turning around. "We will be relocating the galactic government to Earth. This station is no longer neutral territory. You have 48 hours to make arrangements." "You cannot do that." Several voices protested. Helen looked back over her shoulder. "Who is going to stop us?" Silence fell over the chamber. Every representative knew the answer. No one could stop the humans. No one dared try. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The Hellworlders were no longer playing nice, and everyone remembered what happened to those who forgot that lesson. The galaxy learned quickly that humans did not make idle threats. Within a week of Helen Davis's speech, the Veltar hegemony ceased to exist. Not through invasion or conquest, but through something much more terrifying. The humans simply erased. The Veltar homeworld of Vectar Prime was a fortress world. Its cities were built underground. Its orbital defenses could stop entire fleets. Its population of 12 billion warriors had never known defeat. They prepared for a human invasion that never came. Instead, engineer Kate Walsh and her team arrived. In a single unmarked ship. Kate was a small woman who looked like she should be teaching children, not destroying civilizations. She wore simple clothes and spoke in a quiet voice. The Veltar defenders who captured her ship laughed at their prize. One human female against 12 billion soldiers. They stopped laughing when their world began to die. Kate had not come to fight. She had come to terraform. Her ship carried nanomachines so small they could not be detected by Veltar sensors. These machines did not attack the planet. They simply changed it. The atmosphere began to shift. Oxygen levels dropped. Gravity fluctuated. The magnetic field that protected the planet from radiation started to fail. Within 48 hours, Vectar Prime could no longer support Veltar life. "Evacuate immediately," came the human broadcast. "You have 6 hours before atmospheric collapse becomes irreversible." The proud Veltar warriors, who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, fled their homeworld like refugees. They crowded into cargo ships and pleasure craft, taking only what they could carry. 12 billion beings abandoned the strongest fortress in the galaxy because one human woman had made it uninhabitable. But Kate was not finished. Every Veltar military base suffered the same fate. Every fortress world became uninhabitable. Every shipyard found its gravity generators failing and its air becoming poisoned. The Veltar fleet that had dominated space for 1,000 years was grounded. Their ships needed the specialized facilities of their homeworlds for maintenance and fuel. Without those facilities, the mighty Veltar Navy became floating scrap metal within 6 weeks. The hegemony that had conquered 200 worlds was reduced to a collection of refugee camps on agricultural planets. The Veltar begged the Galactic Council for help, but the Council was too terrified to interfere. "Relocate them to farming worlds," Helen Davis instructed. "Give them tools and seeds. They can learn to grow food instead of making war." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the most powerful military force in known space was turned into farmers. Meanwhile, the pirates who had terrorized trade routes for centuries began disappearing. Colonel Sam Hayes commanded human special forces that moved like ghosts through space. His soldiers were trained on Earth, where everything was hostile and deadly. Fighting in the vacuum of space or on alien worlds was easy compared to surviving on humanity's homeworld. The pirate base at Tortuga Station was supposed to be impregnable. It was hidden in an asteroid field, protected by minefields and defense platforms. Its 10,000 pirates had never seen an enemy ship, yet within 100 kilometers of their fortress, they never saw Sam's team coming either. The pirates went to sleep in their supposedly secure base. They woke up in prison cells on a human ship. Their fortress was empty. Their weapons were gone. Their computer systems had been wiped clean. No alarms had sounded. No shots had been fired. The most dangerous pirates in the galaxy had been arrested. While they slept. How? The pirate captain demanded when he was brought before Sam. Sam looked at the man who had murdered thousands of innocent traders. "You made noise," he said simply. "We do not make noise." This pattern repeated across the galaxy. Pirate fleets vanished overnight. Criminal organizations found their leaders missing and their operations shut down. Slave markets discovered their facilities empty and their captives freed. The few pirates who escaped spread stories that terrified the criminal underworld. They spoke of humans who could walk through walls, who could become invisible, who could kill without sound or trace. The stories grew in the telling, but the truth was simple. Humans had spent 50 years learning how every species lived, worked, and fought. They knew the location of every criminal base, the identity of every gang leader, the routine of every pirate fleet. When they decided to act, criminals had nowhere to hide. The Crystalline Consortium tried to negotiate before the humans came. For them, they offered massive payments, exclusive trading rights, and formal apologies for their past treatment of humanity. Helen Davis listened to their desperate proposals with cold amusement. "You had 50 years to negotiate," she said. "You chose to cheat us instead. Now you get to experience the consequences." Commander Luke Anderson arrived at the Consortium's crystal worlds with a fleet of ships that hummed with strange energy. The Consortium's leaders demanded to know what weapons the humans carried. "Music," Luke replied. The Consortium thought he was joking. Crystal beings did not understand human humor, so they assumed he was being literal. Music could not hurt them. They were nearly indestructible. Luke's ships began to sing. The harmony was beautiful at first. Complex mathematical progressions that resonated through space in patterns that seemed almost artistic. The Consortium's crystal cities began to vibrate. In response to the sound, then the frequency shifted. Every piece of crystal on the Consortium worlds began to ring like a bell. The ringing grew louder and louder until the crystal beings could not think through the noise. Their cities, their bodies, their entire civilization was singing in perfect, destructive harmony. Cracks appeared in the crystal spires. The beings themselves started to fracture along their natural fault lines. In minutes, the most beautiful cities in the galaxy were crumbling to sand. "Stop," the Consortium leaders begged. "We surrender." The music ended immediately. The Consortium's crystal. People found themselves partially shattered, but still alive. They could be repaired, but they would never forget how easily humans could destroy them. "Rebuilding will take you several decades," Luke informed them. "Consider it time to think about how you treat other species." The Felcorian hive mind tried a different approach. They attempted to invade human thoughts, to control human minds the way they controlled their own species. It was their greatest mistake. Dr. Marcus Webb had spent 30 years studying alien psychology. He understood exactly how hive minds worked and why they were vulnerable. When the Felcorians tried to attack human minds, they found something waiting. For them, humans had built psychic weapons specifically designed to fight hive minds. These weapons did not attack individual Felcorians. They attacked the connections between them. The feedback loop was immediate and devastating. Every Felcorian in the galaxy suddenly experienced the agony of having their shared thoughts torn apart. The hive mind that had existed for thousands of years shattered into billions of individual, confused beings. For the first time in their species' history, Felcorians were alone in their own heads. They could not hear their sisters' thoughts or share their experiences. The panic was absolute. "We can restore your hive mind," human negotiators told the desperate Felcorians. "But first, you will learn to live as individuals. You will learn what it feels like to be alone with your thoughts. Maybe then you will understand why forcing your thoughts on others is wrong." Species after species fell to human retaliation. Not through traditional warfare, but through weapons tailored specifically to each alien physiology and psychology. The humans had studied their enemies so thoroughly that resistance was almost impossible. The galaxy realized that the past 50 years had not been about human weakness. They had been about human preparation. Every insult, every attack, every act of cruelty had been catalogued and studied. Humans had been building detailed profiles of their enemies, learning exactly how to destroy them, and now that knowledge was being put to use, the few species that had treated humans fairly were left alone. The peaceful Aquarians, who had never attacked human colonies, found their worlds protected by human fleets. The scholarly Zephyrians, who had shared knowledge freely, discovered human scientists, offering to collaborate on research projects. But those who had chosen to prey on humanity found themselves broken and scattered. Within 18 months, the galactic order that had existed for millennia was gone. The strong no longer ruled through violence. Pirates no longer raided with impunity. Criminal organizations no longer operated in the open. Peace existed for the first time in galactic history. It was not the peace of negotiation and compromise that humans had originally wanted. It was the peace of absolute dominance, enforced by beings who had learned that sometimes violence was the only language the galaxy understood. The age of human patience was over. The age of human justice had begun, and everyone who had survived the transition understood one simple truth. It was better to be protected by the Hellworlders than to be hunted by them. 5 years had passed since the Kepler demonstration. The galaxy was a very different place now. Ambassador Krikstal stood before the great windows of the Earth Council building, looking out at the city of New Geneva. Ships from 100 different worlds landed and departed from the spaceport below. Alien children played in parks alongside human children. Former enemies worked together in gleaming office towers. It was peaceful. More peaceful than the galaxy had been in thousands of years. But Krikstal remembered the price of that peace. Behind him, the newest applicants for galactic membership waited nervously. The Corvani delegation had traveled far from their homeworld to request entry into the galactic community. They were young, aggressive, and full of confidence about their place in the universe. They had no idea what they were walking into. President John Mitchell entered the chamber with a quiet authority that marked all human leaders now. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, but Krikstal could see the steel beneath his gentle manner. All humans carried that steel now, even the peaceful ones. "Welcome to Earth," President Mitchell said to the Corvani delegation. "We're pleased to consider your application for membership." The lead Corvani representative, a proud warrior named Korvac, stood and beat his chest in the traditional greeting of his people. "We come seeking alliance with the strong," he announced. "Our fleet numbers in the thousands. Our warriors are mighty. We offer our strength to your empire." President Mitchell smiled the same patient smile that Jake Morrison had worn 50 years ago. But this smile carried different meaning now. "Empire?" the president asked gently. "We don't have an empire. We have a community." Korvac looked confused. "But you rule the galaxy. Your fleets patrol every system. Your laws govern every world." "We protect the galaxy," Ambassador Maria Santos corrected. She was Earth's chief diplomat now, a woman who spoke softly but carried the weight of human authority. "There's a difference between ruling and protecting." The Corvani exchanged glances. They had expected to meet conquerors, not peacekeepers. Their intelligence reports spoke of human dominance, not human service. "We don't understand," Korvac admitted. "Our spies tell us that humans destroyed the Veltar hegemony, that you scattered the pirate fleets, that you control all trade routes and military movements." "All true," President Mitchell agreed. "Would you like to know why?" Krikstal watched the human leader with fascination. This was always the crucial moment when new species learned the real lesson of human power. President Mitchell activated a holographic display showing the galaxy as it existed now. Green lights marked peaceful worlds. Blue showed protected trade routes. Yellow indicated worlds under human guidance as they learned to coexist with their neighbors. There were no red lights, no war zones, no pirate territories, no slave markets. 5 years ago, this galaxy was ruled by the strong, President Mitchell explained. The Veltar conquered anyone they could defeat. Pirates raided anyone they could catch. Criminal organizations enslaved anyone they could kidnap. Violence was the only law that mattered. The display changed to show the galaxy as it had been before the Kepler demonstration. Red lights everywhere, marking conflicts and suffering. We tried to join this system peacefully, the president continued. We asked for protection and received none. We requested justice and were ignored. We begged for mercy and were laughed at. Images flashed across the display. Human colonies under attack. Human ships burning in space. Human children lying dead in the ruins of New Denver. So we changed the system, President Mitchell said simply. Horvath shifted uncomfortably. You conquered it. No, Maria Santos interjected. We fixed it. The distinction seemed lost on the Corvani. They understood only conquest and surrender, strength and weakness. The idea of power used for protection rather than domination was foreign to them. Director Paul Griffin of the Human Peacekeeping Forces stepped forward. He was a soldier, scarred from battles on a dozen worlds, but his voice was calm and professional. Let me explain how peace works, he said. Every species in this galaxy now lives under the same law. No attacking civilian populations. No raiding trade ships. No enslaving other beings. No conquest without cause. And if someone breaks these laws? Korvac asked. Paul's smile was cold as space. They stop existing. The Corvani leader laughed. Impossible. No single species can police an entire galaxy. Watch, Paul said. The holographic display showed recent footage from the Outer Rim. A new pirate organization, called the Red Suns, had started raiding mining ships in the Vega sector. They had attacked 3 human vessels and 2 alien freighters. This happened 6 days ago, Paul explained. The Red Suns had 47 ships and about 2,000 members. They thought they could restart the old days of piracy. The display showed what happened next. Human patrol ships had arrived at the pirate base within hours of the first attack. Not a fleet, just 3 small vessels. We sent them a message, Paul continued. Stop attacking innocent ships and turn yourselves in for rehabilitation. They chose to fight instead. The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes. When it was over, the Red Sun's base was gone. Their ships were disabled and drifting. Their leaders were in human custody. No one died, Paul noted. They were all relocated to agricultural worlds where they're learning useful skills. Some of them will probably become productive citizens in a few years. Korvac stared at the display in disbelief. You defeated 47 ships with only 3? We didn't defeat them, Paul corrected. We processed them. There's a difference. The truth was that human technology had advanced far beyond what any other species possessed. 50 years of careful study had taught humans exactly how every alien technology worked. They had improved on all of it, and added innovations that other species could not imagine. Human ships were not just faster and stronger than alien vessels. They were smarter. Human weapons did not just destroy enemies. They neutralized them with surgical precision. Human soldiers did not just fight better than alien warriors. They fought using tactics and strategies that other species could not comprehend. The old galaxy was ruled by fear, President Mitchell explained to the stunned Corvani. The strong terrorized the weak. The weak lived in constant suffering. We eliminated that system not because we wanted power, but because we wanted peace. But you could rule everything, Korvac protested. Your technology is superior. Your military is unbeatable. Why do you not claim the galaxy as your empire? Maria. Santos answered with the patience of someone who had explained this many times before. Because ruling people makes them angry. Angry people eventually rebel. Rebellions cause wars. Wars cause suffering. We've seen enough suffering. So instead, we protect people, President Mitchell added. We make sure everyone has enough food, safe homes, and honest work. We stop criminals before they can hurt innocent beings. We mediate disputes before they become wars. The concept seemed to confuse the Corvani delegation. They were a warrior culture that respected only strength and conquest. The idea of power used for service rather than domination was beyond their understanding. Crickstal remembered feeling the same confusion 5 years ago. His own people had expected human conquest and received human protection instead. It had taken time to understand the difference. What do you want from us? Korvac asked finally. Simple, President Mitchell replied. Follow the same laws as everyone else. No attacking civilian populations. No raiding trade ships. No enslaving other beings. Do that, and you'll be welcome in the galactic community. And if we refuse? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. President Mitchell's kind expression did not change, but something cold and dangerous flickered in his eyes. Then you'll learn why everyone else chose to accept our protection, he said quietly. Crickstal had seen that look before. It was the look humans got when they remembered New Denver, when they thought about 50 years of suffering, when they considered what they were capable of doing to those who threatened. Peace. The Corvani delegation huddled together, whispering in their own language. They were beginning to understand that they had two choices: join the peaceful galaxy or be removed from it. We need time to consider, Korvac said eventually. Of course, President Mitchell agreed. Take all the time you need. But remember, every day you delay is another day your people miss out on the benefits of galactic civilization. As the Corvani were escorted to guest quarters, Crickstal remained behind with the human leaders. He had something to say that the newcomers were not ready to hear. They will test you, he warned. Young species always do. They will attack a trade ship or raid a colony, just to see if you really mean what you say. President Mitchell nodded. Sadly, we know. It happens with about half the new applicants. They can't believe that power can be used for protection instead of conquest. What will you do when they test you? Maria Santos answered. The same thing we always do. We'll stop them quickly and quietly. Then we'll give them another chance to choose peace. And if they refuse again? Paul Griffin's scarred face was grim. Then we'll do what we did to the Red Suns, the Veltar hegemony, and everyone else who chose violence over civilization. We'll remove them as a threat to galactic peace. Crickstal nodded. He had seen it happen before. Young species that thought they could challenge human authority